Today, the House will finally vote to force the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files from the Justice Department. President Trump now says that he will sign that bill if it reaches his desk. It is quite a 180 and reversal from the stance that he had just a few days ago and held for many, many months. Republican leaders were bracing last week for many Republican members to vote in support of the files. And now, with Trump's blessing, it's expected to receive even more Republican support. What are the numbers behind this? CNN's Harry Enten is running the numbers for you on this. Why were Republicans willing, from the numbers that you see, on this one to go against what Donald Trump wanted?
You know, usually Donald Trump has his pulse on the Republican base, but he did not on this issue. Because what are we talking about, Kate Baldwin? Well, GOP on the Epstein files. Approve of Trump. We're used to seeing approval of Trump among Republicans being 85, 90%. But when it came to the Epstein files, look at this. Just 44%, south of 50% of Republicans actually approved on Donald Trump when it came to the Epstein files. Compare that to this. What was the percentage of Republicans that wanted all of the Epstein files released? 67%. So what we were dealing with is simple mathematics. The Republican base was against Donald Trump on the Epstein files. They were with the idea of releasing them. The Republican representatives saw that and therefore were not afraid to go against Donald Trump, because this was the rare instance in which the Republican base was not with Donald Trump. They were actually with the idea of being against Donald Trump and releasing the Epstein files.
And one way that you have long been able to kind of gauge, at least if people are really interested in something, is how you're gauging on Google searches. What has that shown over the last
year? What is that showing? You know, back in July, there was this idea, there was this push, right, to release the Epstein files. And Mike Johnson said, you know what? I'm sending the House home. Adios, amigos, goodbye. There was interest in it, but not to the degree that we're seeing right now. Okay, Google searches for Jeffrey Epstein versus a week ago, up nearly 1,200%. That we have seen more searches over the last 5-day period for Jeffrey Epstein than any 5-day period this entire year, much more so than we saw even in July. And more than that, the top associated search topic with Jeffrey Epstein was Donald Trump. This problem, simply put, was not going away. So what you were dealing with was many Republicans unhappy with how Trump was dealing with the Epstein files, many Republicans wanting those Epstein files released, and more than that, it was climbing in the interest levels, so it wasn't going away. So all of a sudden, the Republican representatives are saying, jailbreak time, adios amigos, we're going to leave Donald Trump. We are going to vote to release those files long before Donald Trump even said, you know what, you should release them all.
What are you seeing in terms of what people think really are the chances that the files will be released now?
Okay, so we're going to hold this House vote, right? And we expect that a lot of House Republicans are going to say release them. But there is still a problem insofar as getting them released. That is, one of the biggest problems is the United States Senate. They may not even vote on it. And so here we go. This is, I think, a good sort of baseline understanding of, will Donald Trump actually release any more Epstein files before the end of his second term? On Saturday, it was 50%. Now Trump says, you know, we should release them all. If a bill gets to my desk, I would sign it. But even so, it's still 72%. So majority chance that we will see more Epstein files. I think it's a good use of the prediction markets because it's a conventional wisdom baseline where people are putting their money. But it's still far less than 100% because, hey, look, we got to still wait and see if the United States Senate actually gets a vote on this.
Yeah, there's a lot that still does need to happen before that's a sure thing. It's good to see you, Harry. Thank you so much. John.
All right, with us now is Lisa Bloom, a victims' rights attorney who has represented 11 Epstein survivors. Lisa, good to see you. And we are expecting to hear from a group of survivors up on Capitol Hill very shortly in advance of this House vote. Wondering if you have a sense of how the survivor community is feeling now, because a lot has happened in just the last week between the emails that came out, this sudden reversal from the president, this imminent House vote. What's the feeling in the community?
Well, thanks, John. I can tell you that the 11 very brave women who I've been representing since 2019 are really suffering as this is thrown around like a political football. And all they have ever wanted was accountability and transparency. Release the files, redact the name of the survivors, and let's have accountability for everybody who was involved with this predator.
So accountability, and you say they are still suffering because it's being used as a political football. I want to play for you how the president said he would handle it if this bill does reach his desk. Listen.
I'm all for it. You know, we've already given 50,000 pages. You do know that. They can do whatever they want. We'll give them everything. Sure, I would. Let the Senate look at it. Let anybody look at it. But don't talk about it too much because honestly, I don't want to take it away from us.
But don't talk about it too much because I don't want it to take away from us. And what struck me there is because of what you were saying before. The survivors feel like they're being dragged through a political morass right now.
I mean, look, does anyone really think that Donald Trump cares about sexual assault victims? This is a man that a jury found liable for sexual assault a few years ago. He said very recently that the release of the files was a Democratic hoax and a hostile act. He tried to get a congresswoman to flip. That didn't work. If Donald Trump really cared and really wanted the files released, he could order that on his own without Congress. But he's continuing to play political games, and the trauma of the victims continues.
With the revelations, and I use that word not with a capital R, but with what has been revealed in the last week inside the emails there, you've been involved with these cases for a long time. You know, how much more information do you think there is that will come to light?
Listen, we've been surprised each time there has been a release. I mean, Epstein is now speaking from the grave and pointing a finger at Donald Trump, saying in the recent release that Trump spent time alone with one of the victims for hours, that Jeffrey Epstein could finish Donald Trump, take him down. In one of the tapes, Epstein said that he was Donald Trump's best friend for 10 years. So these are really striking revelations. We can only imagine what's going to come next. But instead of the drip, drip, drip of the release of documents that continues to re-traumatize the survivors, let's release it all. Let the advocates like me pour over it, and we can go after anybody else who is accountable. There should be congressional investigations. I mean, the release of the files is only just the beginning. That's what we, on behalf of the survivors, are hoping.
Just in terms of the emails that were released, the name that was redacted from those files where Jeffrey Epstein said that Donald Trump had spent a lot of time with one of the survivors. Republicans have said that redacted name was Virginia Giuffre, who has taken her own life now, but she had consistently said that Donald Trump did nothing wrong with her. That said, it was there in the emails. You used the term drip, drip, drip. Of information there. It is interesting because things continue to come out piecemeal. You think it would be different if it were all out at once. Why?
Absolutely, because again, we're talking about real human beings. I mean, the 11 victims who I represent are everyday people who are still dealing with the trauma, the substance abuse, the problems in their relationships, depression. You mentioned Virginia Giuffre, suicidality. They're trying to move on and live their lives. We were able to fight for and get for them substantial compensation against the Epstein estate and against JP Morgan, the bank that was found to have been complicit. But they can't move on. Every time they, look at the news and they see there's more information that's coming to light. So that's why we need to get this done. We need to get full accountability for anybody who's involved.
Yeah, it's real life for these women, many of whom we're going to hear from today. This isn't about scoring political points. This is about living their lives. Lisa Bloom, thanks so much for being with us this morning. I appreciate it.